Okay, well, let's get this started. So thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lee Christie. I'm the Senior VP of Global Tech and Innovation at the Austin Chamber. And today we're partnering with the City of Austin Small Business Division as part of the National Small Business Week. This week, the Small Business Division has hosted a series of virtual events that supports local small businesses, creatives, and nonprofits. These events have focused on strategic pricing, taxes, how to create an organizational structure, funding, and marketing. You can actually find the full schedule if you go to smallbizaustin.org. And as everyone knows, to keep Austin's economy competitive, we do need to provide tools and information to support businesses of every size on a continual basis. And this is why it's such a pleasure to partner with Joy Miller today and her team at the City of Austin. We specifically also want to thank the following partners whose support helps us, provide this type of programming throughout the year. Thanks to our pivotal partners who are Amazon, Ascension Seton, Dell, PIMCO, and Wells Fargo. To our foundation partners. To our corporate partners. And of course, we have to thank our sponsors who have made today's event possible, which is Dell Technologies. Thank you so much, Dell Technologies, for supporting us here today. We also want to thank our foundation sustainers and our corporate sustainers. And of course, as we've already mentioned, the City of Austin Small Business Division, for its sponsorship today, makes all the world's difference. So thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to pass the baton over to Megan Wright. She's the Strategic Partner Account Executive at Dell Technologies.
Thanks for that introduction, Lee, and thank you to the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce for putting on today's event. Dell Technologies was born and raised in Austin, Texas, so we find it extremely important to support our neighbors and small business owners in the central and greater Austin areas. We have seen the impact COVID has had on small businesses in our city and are here to be that technology partner to ensure that your business is pivoting and continuing to pivot in the right direction through the use of technology. And through our partnership with Austin Chamber of Commerce, we can connect you with dedicated technology advisors to better understand your specific needs for your business and fit you with the proper solution, offer in-house financing options to keep your capital in your pocket, and access to 24/7 support to act as your own personal IT department. To learn more, please visit dell.com/Austin Chamber. And I really appreciate the time today to share more about our great partnership and continuing to see it grow. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Joy Miller with the City of Austin Small Business Division to tell us a little bit more about this week's slate of events. Joy, I will let you take it away.
Thank you, Megan. Good afternoon. I'm Joy Miller with the Small Business Division of the City of Austin's Economic Development Department. And I just want to reiterate what they've already said. All week, we've been celebrating Austin's small businesses by offering no-cost classes, panel discussions, and more. A major component of the week has been recognizing the resiliency of small business owners who pivoted to better success during the pandemic. We hope that today's panelists will serve as inspirations to you and that their discussion will spark ideas about changes you can still make to increase your business resiliency going forward. To learn more about this city's small business services, go to smallbizaustin.org, and that is B-I-Z. And I want to thank the Chamber for making this opportunity available. I know the panel will be amazing. Enjoy. Back to you, Lee.
Thank you so much, Joy. It's always a pleasure to be on here with you. And Megan, thank you again. So let's get to the fun part. So today's conversation is going to be focused on resiliency. And I think as we'll hear and we'll see with these stellar panelists and leaders, is that there is a connection between resiliency in business and resiliency in life, and how leaders, specifically founders and CEOs, step up during this time, grow their teams, maybe even pivot and respond and even thrive during times like this. So with that, I really would like to start introducing and shining a spotlight on three phenomenal founders and CEOs whom I know you know, but it's really wonderful to have these three together and to have this conversation. So with that, I'd love to introduce Amber Allen. And Amber is the CEO and founder of Double A Labs. It is hard to see anything to do with women founders and those doing amazing things in Austin without seeing Amber's name associated with it. So Amber, we're really thrilled to have you with us. Next, I would love to bring to the conversation DJ Lozado. DJ, who I have had a great honor in talking with on many panels. DJ is the founder and CEO of Soul Pop Gourmet Popcorn, which if you haven't tasted, you're definitely missing something. There are a lot of great flavors there, and I love DJ's leadership. And last but not least, a new player on the scene in Austin, who I know you've seen already some news coverage on, and he's hitting the ground in Austin literally in fifth gear. So Hanny Pham, who is the founder and CEO of Marquez. Is it Marquez or Marquez, Hanny?
Marquez.
Marquez.
Yeah.
We're so glad to have you here. And I know that your voice will be instrumental in this conversation. Just doing a round robin, Amber, do you want to launch us off and maybe say just a little bit about yourself as a leader and who you are at this day and time with your company and going through COVID?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, guys. So I own Double A Labs, and I am a Texas girl that was out in LA and San Francisco for part of my career, and I was very excited as the company grew to be able to bring it back to Austin. We've got about 38 people here in town, and we focus on technology that is world builders for brands. So we have a 3D web enablement software that allows for you to watch your content, create content, and shop all in one space. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Amber. And you just put out a press release on even more great stuff you're doing. So I'm glad you're here. DJ, share a little bit more about yourself with us and how you're standing as a leader at this day and time.
Hi, everyone. My name is, again, of course, DJ Lozado, and I'm the founder of Soul Popped. And, we just are happy to, first of all, thank you for having me here as part of this important discussion. And Soul Pop is continuing to grow. We did suffer some setbacks because of the pandemic, like a lot of other businesses, but we're reopening at the mall, our retail location at the mall. And we're getting opportunities to just grow and do more things. And I know we'll be discussing that a little later on.
Thank you, DJ. Hanny, tell us a little bit about yourself and what in the world drew you to Austin as hopefully we end this time during COVID.
So, hi everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here amongst this August panel of leaders and founders. Thrilled to bits to have our company headquartered globally in Austin now. We did the rounds like everybody else, and like Amber, I spent quite a lot of time on the West Coast in LA. And as we scanned the scene globally for where to headquarter Marquez, Austin really stood out to us for the availability of talent, for just the friendliness and welcoming of people, and the other businesses here. There seems to be an energy in terms of how businesses connect with each other in Austin that's different to elsewhere. And for someone like Marquez, who's connecting every small business on the planet and bringing to them three very fundamental things that they've not had access to date, which is verification, which is so important coming out of COVID, monitoring of who they do business with, and a completely new take on payments. So thrilled to bits to be here.
Well, thank you. So let's get to business on resiliency. So, as we move through this conversation, I'd really love for each of you to share what resiliency means to you, so that as we talk through resiliency in business and with teams and with your business, really, what does that term mean to you? There's a lot of synonyms, but personally and professionally, what comes to your mind when you think of resiliency? Amber, do you want to take a shot?
Sure. Yeah, resilience to me means being able to know that you're going to get knocked down and be able to get back up. A lot of times I think it's that whole what we show, especially now in social media and all that, right? You'll see one thing of what people are seeing and the inspiration that you need to be for your team or for the people around you that are relying on you. And there are just times when you may not always show externally what's going on in the company because they need the strength, but knowing with your executive teams or your tribe or the friends that you support you of being able to have those conversations and knowing that sometimes you just got to take one step at a time.
Agreed. Would anyone else like to step in on that one?
Yeah, I think for me, resiliency is synonymous with adaptation. And I think what we've seen during the pandemic is profound rates of adaptation as individual human beings and as businesses. Now, not everybody, sadly, has made it through that, either personally or professionally. And that's really, really weighs heavy on all of us. But I do think it is important that we continue to help build that adaptation muscle as businesses. And I think in terms of our teams, their ability to pivot and adapt, our ability to stay close to our customers and help them see things that they might not be able to see when they're confronted with all the challenges that are in front of them, and help them see through that fog. And then in terms of how we continue to invest and the partners that we continue to invest with, this is a great time to form strategic alliances. We've never seen more receptivity and openness to businesses, big and small, being very open and very fast to partner, ally together, and create the new norm out of this very difficult time.
Thank you, Hanny. DJ.
Well, for me, resiliency is the ability to perform in spite of, not because of. And as long as you have that attitude that nothing's going to stop you, I think good things tend to happen. And so resiliency is just the belief that you can, no matter what's going on around you or what's impacting you externally. When you have internal resilience, then you're unstoppable.
Thank you for that. And, you know, that kind of moves into two questions I'd love to ask you. So, you know, even during this time and, you know, as founders and CEOs, there's no doubt that you have experienced an economic downturn before. Obviously, COVID has been unlike anything we've seen in our generation. But I know that you've experienced an economic downturn in some way. So when you have your tribe, as Amber referred to it as, I mean, how do you lead with adaptation? How do you teach adaptability to your core teams? And what does that even look like? And please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I think in that piece, I think it's a big one that I've really learned. And I actually put this quote on my wall during this time, is where it says, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently, by Henry Ford. And it's one of those things where it's being able to listen, apply criticism, know that this is not, how do I learn from this, and learn across and share the mistakes or failures. And so then the resilience, I guess it also ties back into it.
I think inspiring people to see the opportunities amidst challenges is really such an important part of leading, particularly as, you know, significant investors or owners of a business. Absolutely incumbent upon us to help people see the opportunity amidst challenges. You know, we saw that in the late 90s with the, you know, the dot boom crash. We saw it in 2007 in the big meltdown, you know, and we're seeing it again now. I think it sounds a little Darwinian, but this is an opportunity for, you know, those who are strong enough to really come forward and really benefit from that. And the speed at which you pivot, rather than worrying about what it was like yesterday and what you used to do yesterday, but rather what you could do differently going forward. Times like this provide an incredible opportunity to cut through the noise and the clutter, and frankly, in many cases, the competition. You know, and helping, you know, our teams and people that we're with to see that and inspiring them to see that is really powerful and really, really critical at this time.
And to put I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, because I'm going to ask you.
No, I was just going to say, just to put a bow on that, storytelling is more important now than ever, because when we share our stories, then we can, as Hanny had alluded, be an inspiration to people we might not even know. I mean, people are always watching. I've realized that over the years, people are watching when you don't think they are. And so a lot of times they're just looking for that inspiration to demonstrate, especially when you're an underrepresented founder. It's important to be in that space so other people can realize that they can too.
Yeah.
I think that's really well said by all three of you. And I think each one of you kind of hit on the point of seeing an opportunity, jumping on an opportunity, overcoming a challenge, and even, we heard the word pivot, I think, more over the last year plus than we've ever heard the word in our lifetime. So how did each of you, and I do know each of you has significantly, if you will, pivoted during this time. And I think it's really important to showcase how you went through that process and what it looked like, even from how did you work with your team online? How did you do that in such a virtual world when we were all put in our own homes for such a long time? DJ, do you want to go first?
Yeah, thanks. So for Soul Popped, we had just gone through a pivot right as before the pandemic happened. And so we were pivoting into physical retail space and making plans to expand not only in Texas, but in different states when the pandemic happened. And so our pivot consisted of just really the need to be online, to create a space online. And because Soul Popped is, as far as we know, the only popcorn shop in America where you can come in and get customizable flavors on the spot, I had to figure out how to translate that into an online presence. And so now to this day, when you order on Soul Popped, you can customize your flavors online. We batch it for you and ship it. So that was really an innovative pivot. And then the final thing that we did was start our fundraising, an all digital fundraising platform called Good Trouble Gourmet. And that's the sister organization to Soul Popped. And it's still gourmet popcorn, but a different flavor line, different branding. And so what people can do with that is you can fundraise without ever, I always say, without leaving your home. You can fundraise from your bathrobe because we create a page for you, you share the link, people buy, and then we ship on your behalf. And so I'm really thankful that we were able to make such a huge shift because it really was a huge shift in our model. And really, everyone was in their own spaces. And so we had to do all of that virtually. And I know my other panelists will talk more about how that worked, but it's really worked out for Soul Popped in a positive way.
I'm glad to hear that, DJ. Amber, do you want to talk about your big pivot?
Yeah, it's so funny. I told my team about 100 times, we're not pivoting, we're expanding one of our services, even more so. But yeah, 70% of our business was live experiences, from the Ready Player One activation at South by to quite a few large esports and gaming activations. And so we've always had a technology department, but our business model, since we are bootstrapped and self-funded, was that it would grow over the next 5 years. What was supposed to be in 5 years, we did in a year. And that's a lot of the resilience of my team that was like, okay, and to the point we didn't even end up having to do layoffs. It was, okay, we're going to focus and redirect, and let's figure out the same skill set that made us great in the experiential world. How do we then amplify that in the technology of the augmented reality platform that we had to last year? Sure enough, we did 50% in tech and 50% in live streams and production. And this year we'll do 70% in technology as the SaaS platform. So it's definitely been, it's been exciting, but kind of DJ was saying, it's interesting of the building a team that's actually never met each other. You know, we've got about 25 new people this past year, and a lot of those are people that have not met in real life. So finding ways that they can connect and collaborate online, it helped that we were an online platform.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Amber.
Yeah, you know, for us, we found a couple of things. We found the team very adaptable to this new norm, this new environment. For sure, as much as everybody else has said, a very dedicated team. But very interestingly for us, we heard two things. First of all, we spent a lot of time constantly, mid-COVID even, listening to our customers and listening to the market. And customers told us they care about three things: cash flow, customers, and suppliers. We call that the golden triangle for small business. And we then set about to say, okay, how do we help with those three things the most of all that was and is in our roadmap? How do we focus? And we found the partners who got that. A lot that we spoke to didn't get it. A lot that we spoke to were busy in their own corporate restructuring and layoffs and this and that, and they just were not the right partners for us. They were completely wrong. The ones that got it and leaned in, we found we got incredible movement at pace with them, and we struck some really long-term, really fantastic deals with strategic partners and institutional partners who themselves demonstrated adaptation in this environment and who resonated and nodded their head when we said, these are the three things that are big for customers, and this is how we're going about it. That's one thing. The second thing is equipping customers with the tools to evolve quickly, or more quickly than they otherwise would have. For instance, small businesses are the prime target for cyber attacks at the moment. We had to educate small businesses that this wasn't a big corp issue, but really a big topic for small business, and then equip them with tools to think about that, both educational and functional. 60% of suppliers went out of business in COVID. How do you figure out whether your suppliers are still in business or not? And how do you monitor them going forward in a different way than you did in the past? Again, education and easy to use tools. So it's a combination of listening, thinking about partners in a different way, and looking for those traits both internally and externally that show people can move fast in this new norm.
Thank you for that. So we're hearing from each one of you, obviously, on this panel, and it's great to hear about your experiences. What are you hearing, though, from your peers? What are you hearing from other colleagues? Are they facing similar challenges, having to overcome even different ones? I mean, where are you and what are you seeing as pain points for other small businesses that you are either experiencing yourself or you may not be experiencing? DJ, what are you hearing from your colleagues?
I can tell you the number one topic, especially in food, restaurant, and food service, is the labor shortage. It's real. It's really difficult right now to hire. We're all talking about it, trying to come up with ideas about how we can do it. You're constantly dealing with people coming in trying to get your employees. They're not even shy about it anymore. It's just, hey, we're over here and we're paying this much an hour. Would you like to come work with us? While they're standing in your store. So it's just kind of a different way of understanding how to reach the workforce and to bring in good people who want to work and want to stay. So that's really a challenge right now, Lee.
Thank you. Amber, what are you hearing?
Yeah, it's interesting as Haney brought it up. It's that the reaching out and really kind of sharing information has been huge to this whole thing, from having a quick Zoom meetings or WhatsApp chat groups with different vendors, partners, clients across the board, other CEOs that are going through this. I really appreciated the kind of the reaching out that people did. And one of the biggest things we're hearing is, okay, how do you still have the loyalty from your clients if you're not taking them out? How are you having the loyalty to your people and your people back because you're not doing some of the culture things that we used to do, game nights, float the rivers, all of those things that where's the bonding, right? Of how do you ask someone for, hey, I need an extra hour or two on this, even from your colleagues, when you never shared a coffee or a beer with them. And so it's kind of figuring out new ways to build a culture, and that kind of what you're talking about, DJ, where they're sitting in your own, your own store and such, and figuring out how you give them that brand loyalty for their company, as well as for the clients, as long as you're putting them first.
I think we've spoken about a lot of different areas. The one I want to double click on is the investment community. It's really, we've really seen sorting out of the goats from the sheep, as it were. Those who continue to use the old-fashioned slide rule that they were using 3 years ago to think about businesses and, what they invest in and how they go about things, whatever. Yawn, yawn, yawn. So uninspiring and so uninteresting, focused on just shoring up what they've got and staying in their narrow swim lanes because it worked, 10 years ago and continued to work 3 years ago. There are very few who've adapted and who've demonstrated an ability to move quickly and think differently in this new space. And I think we need more of those. The strategics have moved fast, the institutional players not so much. And I think there needs to be more adaptation there. I'm sure my colleagues would agree for sure.
Well, and to build on, what you're all sharing, you're all great leaders, right? You're all known as really strong leaders, respectable leaders. But are you going to lead differently after this? Will your hiring look differently? Will your roundtables look differently? And not just necessarily, right, on whether they will be online, but how will you show up and ask your team to show up differently, if at all?
I think we want people in our ranks and in our teams that can demonstrate an ability to operate 2 or 3 years out in this new environment. I think we want advisory boards that represent future thinking, not past thinking. I think we're going to be really fussy about, investors who are strategic partners who've demonstrated adaptation. I think we want, partners who've demonstrated adaptation, beyond what others have done. So I think much like we've been talking about scarcity of labor, I think there's going to be a scarcity of quality to find those people who, you think you're going to be there in the next 3 to 4 years. Historically, when we hired for a different world. We hired for a different environment, and we hired for a different set of metrics and dynamics. It's different. The scale of the opportunity, I would say now, is significantly bigger than it was a couple of years ago. But it requires people who can adapt and who can show resilience and can show that they can operate in a future world.
Yeah, and I think also the innovation, right? I think that's one of the things that I teasingly say, we didn't pivot, we expanded one of the divisions. I think that's really what has been eye-opening, is to continually having that as a leader, knowing, okay, where's the industry going? And I like to call it fish testing, kind of like, where are we heading and where are the industries heading, to know who will also be able to adapt as things come around us, because we can never do this alone. Not even just with our people, but as y'all are mentioning, with the partners that we join forces with, the strategic partners, they need to be also looking forward.
Yeah.
And for me, I call this past year the great pause, right? And so it really gave me the opportunity to slow down and kind of zoom back and look at the processes that I had in place and then figure that out. And so my partners and team members, the new me is building that time to be more retrospective and introspective, building that in moving forward, and not always being reactionary, but being proactive in really taking a pause and taking the temperature of what's happening with me, and then with my team and with my partners. So I know that that's a big lesson that I've learned from this past year, that I know that I will continue to implement moving forward.
Yeah, and DJ, to that point, it's also like, don't just assume that we're all going to go back to how things were before.
Oh, yeah.
Why wouldn't we use the amazing technology that we're starting to see and the amplifications? Why wouldn't we want to converge some of these things that we're learning in culture and this reaching across the aisle?
Absolutely.
Well, and I think all of you bring up great points, and I also want to start bringing in some questions. And, as we start to read about resiliency and moving through and moving out of COVID, and so many are talking about the importance and the impact of resiliency and making it, an intentional part of your culture and your culture strategy for your business. And so, here comes a question from an audience member. How are you being intentional in developing a culture of adaptability? Can you teach it?
I think you can lead by example, number one, and number two, constantly reminding people that the laurels that they were resting on or what they did in the past isn't going to cut it, for their future success. So constantly having a dialogue, a conversation with your people and in your environment that is forward-looking. And I mean, for someone like me, I openly tell people I like to lead from the back. I can do it from the front, but I like to lead from the back. This is one of those times where, in terms of adaptability and flexibility and resilience, you got to lead from the front.
And for me, it's about being with people, it changes you when you've been through something. When you can look back and see that you made it through a challenging time, that really adds to your confidence and your ability to be flexible. So I think flexibility is really the name of the game now, and being more fluid and more open to, as Amber suggested, why would we want to go back? So being forward thinking, and really just understanding that it's okay to have a plan, and it's okay for that plan not to work out the way you thought it would. And then how do you react to that? Model that, as Hanny said, model that for your team, model that for your tribe and your community. And just, again, do it anyway, do it in spite of, not because of.
Yeah, I always tell my team, we've been adapting a lot more of that yes and instead of yes or that isn't going to work. You're like, yes, and that's a great idea, and we're going to do this and this, and what does it hurt to think big? As long as 20% is the creative and 80% is the execution in a brainstorm, then it's adapted and fixed.
Well, and I would say that adaptability, whether you have it or not, coming into an economic downturn, is really key, right? It's a key to moving forward. And I want to kind of touch on some good points individuals have said about when you have resiliency or you go through a downturn, some positive aspects that you can take from that, and not at all minimizing what we've been through as a nation and around the globe through COVID. But there are some things we are taking away from this. And a couple of these are teamwork and innovation and learning. So talk to us about teamwork. How is resiliency and making it through and building teams? We've even shared that a large number of your new employees haven't even met in person. So even looking at your team now, how would you consider teamwork coming out of a time of resiliency?
I'll take a little part of that in the sense of we were finding that people, to have teamwork, you have to know a little bit about each other, right? And so, and especially in our world, you've got storytellers, as you were talking about, the producers, the live stream, the engineers, data scientists. It's a big range. And so how do you do this whole kind of, I like to call it STEAM, the coordination of all of those teams? And we had some really good results with this one that we rolled out where two people on the team, completely different groups, are interviewing each other. And it was, at first, it was like, oh boy, somebody's gonna feel like it's more homework. And oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like on every Friday we do this, and somebody in legal will interview someone in engineering or in different groups. And they're now sharing information. They're creating slides, videos, decks. It's really cool. So it's kind of building that personal team building to allow it also to spread within the company. It's really encouraging.
I also think it's never been more important for teams to operate as organic units rather than an org chart. the org charter, in my mind, I've always, for a long time, been a thing of the past, but more so now, organic adaptation, and for people to develop quickly the ability to adapt to each other, understand where each other is coming from, and help bring out the best in each other. It's absolutely key. You can't hide behind a desk in an office and an org chart and my manager. That's a word that we completely ban. In our business, there's no such thing as my manager. We hate that. So I think that's really important. You bring your best self to work, and you connect and bring out the best in each other. If you can't do that, if you're busy thinking about why you're there in your own head, you just don't belong. You need to go do something else.
It's a good way to
Lee,
look at it.
my grandma used to say, "It's don't worry about how they treat you when everything's going great. Pay attention to how you treat it when it's not." And so I think that another really positive aspect of going through this great pause is employees got to see what the true corporate values or company values of the organization they work for. Were you there for them when they had all of these really odd situations pop up and people needed support? And I found that it brought me and my team closer together because I got to demonstrate how much I really care about them. And I got to express empathy, and they got to help me because I need it. And so it was an opportunity for me to ask for help and to receive help from my team. And so for us, it was just a really bonding opportunity. And then when you bring in new people, it's amazing how organic it is to hear the stories about what we did to support one another through this time. And it just really creates a culture of a more family centric environment where we're not just colleagues, but we really are a support system for one another. And I'm really grateful for that. And I encourage that we, as leaders, find a way to continue to do that for our team now that we're headed towards good times again. Being positive, the worst is behind us, but how do we still bake that in where we're showing empathy and compassion for one another, giving our staff time off to take care of family members and to take care of themselves, both men and women, and just being better leaders because we've been through something with our teams.
Well, and that discussion actually leads beautifully to a question from Preston, who's watching right now. And his question is, has the new economic environment shaped or modified the core values of your business, if at all?
Yeah, I think we can do more with less. And we're finding ways to be resourceful. And we have a thesis in our business that we use literally across the board, and that is converting spare capacity into net new equity. And we look for partners that have spare capacity, that they understand as spare capacity, and they can help put it together in clever ways to create new value. I think that for us is something we talk a lot about, and it's something that we talk to our partners about. Let's take this thing that we used to do that we don't do anymore, or this amount of time that we used to spend on this or that, and let's put it together with something else that creates new value. So I think that, for us is a real rallying cry in terms of, how we do more with less and how we operate more efficiently rather than the old fashioned, just cut 5% off your cost base every year on year, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot where we're looking at, like, as you mentioned, the core values. We've always looked at how we can streamline. But I think a big piece has been, how do we actually evaluate the systems we need and let go of things where we don't. That we saw that a lot. And then why wouldn't we just keep those same principles later? But also really understanding the swim lanes. As a small businesses, wear a lot of different hats. But as the business continues to grow, or as we're expanding more, it's certain people that are just really great at certain things, letting them focus on that. So it's been something that we're adapting more and more.
So before we get to another question, which I think builds off of this well, so how are you I guess one way to look at as employees and team members are shifting over to those different swim lanes, Amber, as you mentioned. Are you seeing this a time where team members are getting a boost in career development, learning how to grow their qualities, improve their qualities, their skills, how they work? Are you seeing this as an opportunity at all to really uplift your employees and grow their skills?
I'll just say real quick, we just did something in ours where we actually did a Scrum training for anybody that wanted it. And so we ended up have almost 20 people on that across the company that was learning more of the Agile and Scrum certification. And we hired officially, so they had that certification on their resume.
And the thing that I'm discovering, I don't even think I did it intentionally, but all of my staff are also business owners. So, and I encourage that. So we really do talk and practice entrepreneurship, not only for what I need in the business, but also what they need in their startups. And so, in making time and space and room for that, I find they are more loyal to giving time to me and to my company for what we need. And they're learning through mentorship and from the practical. I always tell them, work your way out of a job. You know, this is not your final destination. So I want them to be better prepared for what their future holds for as long as they choose to stay. But I'm so proud that I have my team, every member of my team also has a small business.
We always say to our people, think about how you make what you're doing here and your contribution turn into the last thing you ever do for money. How do you create that value that this is literally the last thing you need to do for money? What would you do differently in that context? You know, and it comes with a lot of sacrifice. You know, we're all working longer hours. We're all doing things in different ways, whatever. And I'm always reminded of that silly line at the beginning of Men in Black where Will Smith says to Tommy Lee Jones, "Is it worth it?" And he says, "Oh yeah, if you're strong enough." And I think it really just does come down to that.
Well, thank you all for being such stellar leaders and really just supporting your team members, right, and your tribes. With that, I'd kind of like to shift the conversation from being less business and professional focused to the well-being and the personal lives of your employees and team members. So Chad Barrett in the audience asked, do you find yourself dealing with fear from your employees related to so many changes currently and how you are responding to that?
It's about empathy. You know, we all have families. We're not just founders and CEOs, but we are also family members and family heads of households. And so just really, if you're empathetic and showing concern for what they're going through and creating lanes where they can come and ask for help if they need it. Because we're all figuring this out. No one has any answers. As you said in the beginning, Lee, this is something that our generation, we never thought we would be here, and here we are, and we're all figuring it out. And so it's so much better to figure it out together. And I had the opportunity, I think it was last week, to be on a White House panel discussion about family and childcare and elder care and how those needs have shifted. And just remembering that it's not just women who are responsible for family and elder care, it's men too. So when you have female staff members that need to take care of their families, create an environment where the men can come and ask for that time off too. I'll leave it at that and give time for my other panelists to weigh in.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we've kind of looked at as well is letting people share. So as one big thing we did was worked with Baylor Scott and was able to do tacos and things like that. But then we had a whole entire conversation on who else in the company had family that was in the hospitals or working as nurses and stuff. And then finding out that, and we ended up doing tacos to them in a whole other state. And for their whole entire floor. And so it was, but then everybody got to write little notes, and then we put it on a big, and it just, that whole kind of like, we're all in this together, and remembering that, I think, is what has been important, is, and knowing even when people, this, as a company has been changing and pivoting and expanding, some people don't want to go into that side of a business. And when they've chosen to go somewhere else, it's still been okay, not vilifying it, but going, all right, this is all right. If you're finding the right thing for you, you're still part of the family.
We helped everyone move to Austin, and candidly, and help support them in doing that. And they've been, everybody's been super excited about doing that from literally all over. So that's been kind of exciting. Look, and that fear component, is always going to be there with change. But I think, if we learn to embrace change and we learn to share that, with our teams and, with our partners, it starts to become just a little bit less scary. Yeah.
So I want to read you a quote, and I'd love for you to respond to this. It says, resilient skills directly benefit employees' psychological well-being by helping them reframe their perception of stress. Happy and healthy employees are highly engaged, which leads to customer satisfaction and profitability. So talk to us about how, it's really, right, it's all about resiliency in life and resiliency in business and how they relate to one another. So do you have a reaction to that comment at all, or agree or disagree with it?
I think it's completely true. Completely true. And I think having our employees walk in the footsteps of the customers we work with and in the footsteps of the partners that we rely on, and teaching them to evolve their idea of stress or their idea of adaptation and turn that into resiliency is just super important. Super important. Yeah.
And giving people the opportunity to problem solve. Oh man, when you're a type A personality and it's like you have that S on your chest and you think, I have to fix it. I have to solve it. And then realizing that you have a group of really talented, committed, capable people around you, and giving them the opportunity and the space to help you work through an issue. It's resiliency both ways. It's creating, because it's building confidence on them, and it's also teaching us as the leaders to lean on others, where we often sometimes might feel like we only have ourselves. And so it's just continuous growth and openness with compassion and empathy, I think, leads to greater resiliency.
Yeah, I agree. I think I love what you're saying, DJ, and I'm building on that too. And he is like what you may do. Like, I like change. It doesn't bother me. It's exciting. You couldn't really be an entrepreneur if you don't mind like the change and pace. And then realizing, shoot, everybody else might not always enjoy this or like it. So how do you figure out ways that they feel safe enough when you're getting all excited, like, oh, we get to actually go build this. Let's go do this and this. And they're like, but where am I at in that? You're like, oh yeah, let me slow down, turn around, and see, what might need to be explained when it just in your head sometimes just makes sense.
Yeah. I think the other thing is trust is a two-way street. And sometimes we hear a lot when people are dealing with fear or uncertainty or unfamiliar circumstances, that word trust comes up a lot. And the reality is trust is earned and it's re-earned every day. And it's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. I think that's really important to have an environment that builds that encourages that, and that doesn't have anyone demanding it or expecting it because it should be there, but rather earning it. I think that's really important, and I, heard that in DJ and Amber's comments for sure in terms of practically how we, engage with our people in that way.
So to end this conversation, I want to give each of you just a little bit of time to share with those listening, and your teams are going to hear this too, of what do you want to come out of this and how do you want to excel moving forward, going through this economic downturn? moving forward, what do you want out of this? Who are you going to be?
I'll go first. Our mantra is real simple. Identify the 2 or 3 things that are real needs of our customers and in the environment that we operate in, and figure out if we can be the best in the world at it, period. And if you can't, then we're doing something wrong. And we really mean it when we say that.
That's funny. We say similar. We don't boil the ocean.
Yeah.
You can't boil the ocean. And
Yeah.
so even like our product can be used in so many different ways with 3D, visual web, it's kind of one of those things. All right, but we're going to focus. These are the 3 things we're going to focus: sales enablement, fan experiences, training engagement. And there's all these different things that come up. These creatives are like, focus. These are the 3 things, and understanding where we may not be great at certain things, bringing in advisors. I love one of y'all had mentioned that, of going, okay, I don't have to have everybody as full-time, but there could be people that have done this before. How do I help them? How do they help us see where the potholes are?
And for me, it's about being better than I was before, being a better person, being a better leader, being a better business owner, being a better friend, a better daughter, a better mother, just all around, all of the things that really collectively makes us who we are. I don't know that I have any hard and fast tangibles, but I know that I want to have used this time to be reflective and to work on my shortcomings and my weaknesses, and just really come out of this on the other side, being more resilient, but being better and more resilient.
Well, and as we close this out with a few final words, is there anything that I've missed or that hasn't been asked that you would love to make sure that everyone seeing this walks away with?
Stay open and look for the big opportunities.
Say that again.
Stay open and look for the big opportunities. Don't be afraid to open yourself up and look for partners who can help you get there quicker than you otherwise would on your own. Sorry, DJ, I interrupted.
No, that's okay. We didn't have a cue, but just to add to what you're saying, I would like to encourage us all to think about how we as a society can be better to one another and stop putting up roadblocks and obstacles that make an already difficult situation harder. And that comes from each one doing our part. And so while we're looking to be better at business, I'd also like to encourage us to look at being better as people, being better as citizens, and just finding ways to be supportive and not destructive towards one another.
Yeah, I think it's as the world opens up more, right? It's how do we learn and take the things that we have learned this last year and be able to expand our life, just like we have our businesses, and to not be afraid of change and technology. Keep growing.
Well, so with that, I really do want to say a huge thank you to each one of you. I love hanging out with you. I admire each of you. And we know we're going to see and continue to see great things from you. So thank you for spending this hour with us. And it's very much appreciated. And best of luck to each of you. I know you will continue to soar.
Thank you, Lee.
Thanks, Amber. Thanks, DJ, and thanks to our audience.
Thanks, Amy. Amber.
Bye. Bye.
So as we close out with our panelists, really, I hope you heard some reoccurring themes that we saw. And really, we heard reflective opportunity, empathy, culture, values, problem solving, investing in team, expansion, partnerships, and redefining. So I hope you walk away with that and continue to follow our panelists as they are truly phenomenal leaders. And I hope that you with that, really enjoyed today's conversations. And I'm so glad that we got to share some questions from the audience with our speakers. And with that, as we close out, the Chamber does have actually a large number of upcoming events. Our programming is exceptional right now. And I hope as you look at these events on our 2 slides that you find one that's a good fit for you. We'd love to have you on one of these and experience our panelists and what they have to offer. And I believe with that, thank you again to Megan at Dell Technologies and to Joy Miller at the City of Austin Small Business Division. And we hope you have a wonderful evening and best wishes to you and your family. Take care. Thank you again. Bye-bye.